Hello, I would like to welcome everybody to this month's Brown Bag webinar, and we are pleased to have Connie Hensler from Interface. She's the Director of Environmental Management and Product Stewardship there, and as the Director, she manages the use of LCA at Interface toward the company's ultimate goal of sustainability. Ms. Hensler is a life cycle assessment certified professional and has published research in the Journal of Industrial Ecology and the International Journal of Life Cycle Assessment. She's a member of the Board of the Directors of the American Center for Life Cycle Assessment. So without further ado, I will invite Connie to the stage. Welcome.
All right. Are you able to see it right now?
Yes, we are.
Very great. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with your audience today. I was able to give this same presentation at the ISST conference, and it was really hard to give it, to stand up in front of a room full of people and talk. But now I find, wow, it's almost just as hard to talk to your computer screen and be engaging, to reach out through this screen and actually get people on their own computer screens to be engaged and listen. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to work on this skill. So as Holly said, I'm Director of Environmental Management and Product Stewardship, and I've been at Interface for many years in many different roles, ranging from technical director, plant manager, research and development, and most recently, as she mentioned, I did life cycle assessment, measuring and reporting our impacts. And so what am I here to talk about today? Basically, who is Interface, our mission zero, where we came from, what we've accomplished so far, and where we're going, our new mission, Climate Take Back. So there we go. So who is Interface? We're the world's largest manufacturer of modular carpet, that's carpet tile, and also other types of modular flooring. And we've been in business since the 1970s, and our annual sales are approximately $1 billion. So we're kind of a medium-sized company. We're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have a global manufacturing capability. We manufacture where we sell. So we have plants in the US, in Northern Ireland, in the Netherlands, in Thailand, China, and Australia. But who are we in the world of sustainability? Well, we've been in the top 3 of GlobeScan's survey for sustainability leadership for the last 10 years. Now, as I mentioned, we're a medium-sized company, and you can see here that we're sort of punching above our weight class against these massive consumer brand companies. And also, a thing to note on this chart is many companies have come and gone through the years. It'd be a cluttered chart to include them all, but they all fall off over time. And Interface is the only company to have remained in the leadership's survey since it began in 1997. But of course, to really know who Interface is, you have to know our founder, Ray Anderson. Ray started the company back in 1974, and then 20 years later, in 1994, after he read the book, Paul Hawken's book, The Ecology of Commerce, he had an environmental epiphany. It's what he called his spear in the chest moment. And it's when he recognized all the damage that industry does to the world. And not only that, but the power that industry has to change that. And he chronicled Interface's journey through his book called Mid-Course Correction. And then he followed it up with the rest of the story in Confessions of a Radical Industrialist. He was sort of an unwitting hero in the documentary film, The Corporation. He was in the Clinton administrations, he was the co-chair for the Council for Sustainable Development. He was one of Time Magazine's Heroes for the Environment. He won the Mitchell Prize for Sustainable Development. And it just goes on and on. Lots of awards, lots of honors. I used to try to keep it up, but it would turn into a dozen slides. So suffice it to say, he in the sustainability world because he was such a visionary. So what did that mean at Interface? He put us on a mission, one of striving for environmental sustainability. And eventually we began to call it Mission Zero, in our goal to have zero impact on the environment. Sadly, Ray passed away a few years ago, but his work continues here at Interface. We remain steadfast in our pursuit of his vision. And also, there's the Ray C. Anderson Foundation. The purpose of the foundation is to perpetuate the values and continue the legacy that Ray left behind, and they do this through research and funding. Now, while there are lots of interpretations these days about what sustainability is, our efforts are grounded in the natural step. And if you're not familiar with it, you should check it out. It's a no-nonsense attempt to get at the core of what sustainability really is. It's based on 4 system conditions that are pretty much inarguable. For society to be sustainable, number 1, we cannot systematically increase the amount of materials that we extract from the earth. Now for Interface, that means we can't continue to extract petroleum and mined minerals to make our products. Number 2, we can't continue to increase the amount of stuff we produce and pile up on the Earth's crust. And number 3, we can't continue to, we can't degrade the physical environment through our emissions. We can't damage the ecosystem. And number 4, we have to use resources in a fair and equitable way. So at Interface, we try to find the places in our business where we don't comply with these 4 system conditions and make changes. We began with what now is a familiar framework. We called it the 7 fronts of sustainability, including eliminating waste, benign emissions, renewable energy, closing the loop, resource-efficient transportation, sensitizing stakeholders, and redesigning commerce. You know, Interface's approach is studied in sustainability classes across the globe these days, and it's based on this framework. But as we have approached 2020, we've really focused our efforts into several paths, trying to get our factory footprints to zero, trying to make the circular economy work at Interface with our reuse reentry processes, our suppliers to zero, because of progress in other areas. Today, most of our impact lies in our supply chain. And also getting our footprint, our product footprint to zero. And of course, key to all these initiatives is having a workforce that is fully engaged in the mission. Now we normally here I roll into lots of bar graphs with charts of all of our accomplishments, but I'm going to cut it back to just some highlights there. I'll spare you all those details of our ecometrics. Our carbon footprint product carbon footprint is down 60%. Our energy use is down 43%. And our energy use is 87% from renewables. And resulting from that, obviously, our GHG emissions are down 95%. And of the materials that we use to make our product, our carpets, 60% of it comes from either recycled or bio-based sources. And we started in 1994 with that number at 0. So that's a huge accomplishment for us. And now a little detail about some of where we are and what struggles we still have. For instance, in our factories to zero path, we need to stop using fossil fuels to run our manufacturing plants, for both system conditions 1 and 3, you know, not using up the Earth's stuff and not degrading the environment through harmful emissions. So we've been able to source 100% renewable electricity for all of our factories, but we're still working on the thermal energy. We have been able to replace our use of natural gas with directed biogas from landfill in the U.S. and from recovery of methane from a fish waste processing plant in the Netherlands. But we're still searching for alternatives in our other factories, and it remains a big challenge for us. And I mentioned our carbon footprint reduction. You know, while they're very low, they're not zero, and they do not include the rest of the product's life cycle, the delivery, installation, use and maintenance, and the end of life. So we offset the balance. Our Cool Carpet program, actually we've just changed the name of that to Climate Neutral Floors. I've got to update my slide. Climate Neutral Floors program, we neutralize the impact of the greenhouse gas emissions associated with the full life cycle of the product. For the global Interface flooring portfolio, We use WRI's GHG product protocol standard methodology to calculate the product carbon footprint, and then we offset it with verified emission reduction credits. The key point here is that it's for the full life cycle, not just our factory or cradle to gate impacts, and that it covers all of our portfolio, not just some specialty eco-hero products. We're really committed to making our product climate neutral. And our need to purchase these emission reduction credits sort of sets it up like an internal carbon tax on ourselves. So the more we reduce our footprint, the less credits we have to purchase, and so we can, we can lower our footprint and save money at the same time. Closing the loop. Another important part of our progress is product take back. We bring used products back into our re-entry process, and our technology cleanly separates the carpet tiles into the yarns and the backings. And we send the yarns out for external recycling. What you see in that picture, photograph there is that the shovel is scooping into is fiber that's been shaved off the top of carpet tiles. And we turn the old backing into new backing. We convert the separated backing into pellets. We densify them into a type of chrome, which we then feed to our cool blue backing system, which creates what we call glassback RE backing, which is 98% recycled content. Every year we collect thousands of tons of discarded carpet, and just last year we recovered over 5,000 metric tons. But we need more raw materials than we can reclaim through our re-entry program. And that led us to this initiative that combines people and product. We call it networks. We need a source of nylon yarn that doesn't break the natural step condition. So we need to stop using virgin petrochemical-based materials. So fishing nets are made of nylon, and they are discarded on beaches and in the ocean in coastal communities around the world. So we partnered with the Zoological Society of London to develop an initiative to tackle the environmental problem of discarded fishing nets in some of the world's poorest coastal communities and provide our yarn suppliers with a source of recycled nylon. So local residents turn waste into future raw materials by selling the scavenged nets back into global production, which in turn establishes a community-based supply chain and provides long-term incentives for them to protect their natural environment. I'm going to just show you a short video. It's a 2-minute video that really explains this, the Networks program much more eloquently than I can.
The livelihoods of people in this part of the Philippines is completely dependent upon the sea, one way or another. Tinahan Bank is now one of the most degraded coral reefs in the world, some of the highest fishing pressure. Fishers use, especially in the Philippines, use a lot of monofilament nylon nets. When discarded nets go into the marine environment and they just hang around, they can last for 600 plus years.
This is a really high performance engineering plastic. Nylon 6 is in our carpet. It's also in lots of other products that people will use every day. So we want to make sure that material can be used again. Networks is a program that takes discarded fishing nets from impoverished communities and recycles them into carpet tile.
The idea is to collect discarded fishing nets off the beaches or get them from fishers as soon as they have finished using them.
What's really important about this program is that it's not a one-shot beach cleanup for some nice pictures. It's actually about how do you institutionalize nets and ultimately other material recycling in communities in a way that benefits them in the long term. Naman ako nga, someday, maabot na gid ang panahon nga mahurot ang sanang pupot diri sa wala. Kaya daghan naman nga mo sandog na mo.
Ang sample nga gihatag yan. Ipatan-aw na mo diri. Ako nakita kada po diri kay mahimo ang maong pupot.
The product is still our product, beautiful carpet tile. It will look the same, but there'll be this story behind the material. This to me is the start of us being a restorative enterprise. And we're giving back and giving opportunities that are way beyond what maybe people would think a carpet tile company could do. And this is only the beginning.
Thanks for listening to that. They do a much better job of explaining that. They make that program sound a lot better than I can with my dry text. So far, we've got this program established in 35 communities in the Philippines and Cameroon. And we've collected over 142 tons of waste nets for recycling and given 1,500 families access to finance through community banks. So I think the Networks project has really proven to us that collaborative innovation can create, positive and sustainable change. So I've been talking about what we've done in the past, and now I want to talk about what we hope to do in the future. What I really would like to talk about is our new mission. So as 2020 approaches and we see success in our Mission Zero goals, we ask ourselves, what's next? So we looked at where we came from, where we are, and where we want to be. So back in 1994, we were a take, make, waste, petroleum intensive company. And today we have climate neutral products, closed loop recycling, and factories that run on renewable energy. But in the future, we imagine factories that run like forests, products that store carbon, and industrial systems that support life. So our idea is that if humanity has changed the climate by mistake, can we change it with intent? The goal is to go beyond. The goal is to go beyond what we thought was possible and foster a more equitable and inclusive world for all, and ultimately create a climate that's fit for life. At Interface, we're convinced that a fundamental change needs to happen in our approach to climate change. We need to stop just thinking about how to limit the damage caused by climate change and start thinking about how to create a climate fit for life. So what's the next level, for our mission? So I guess one question that a lot of people are incredulous when we start talking about it, the goal to reverse climate change. And you might say, well, why are we optimistic in the face of such an seemingly impossible challenge? I think there are two things that stop us from having climate fit for life. Obviously, too much carbon in the atmosphere. But secondly, and more importantly, it's our own apathy, fear, and denial. It's all our mindset is stopping us as well. I think that, change really starts in the mind with the power of ambitious and positive mindsets. Believing something is possible is the first step. The Wright brothers believed they could fly, and so they did. We believed we could go to the moon, and so we did. Everything starts with the belief that it's possible. And so we're trying to change mindsets and get people to recognize that it is possible to reverse climate change. We've also surveyed a lot of climate experts, and we found surprising hope and belief that climate change can be reversed with technologies that are already available today, not some future miracles. This book, Drawdown by Paul Hawken, is a great place to go for some inspiration because it examines a lot of this current technology and calculates its potential contribution to actually reversing global warming. So what does climate take back at Interface? So the problem and the solution. This is a model proposed by the Stockholm Resilience Center. Some of you have probably seen this. It shows, how we might reach safe climate levels of CO2. This looks really complex, but let's simplify it down to these things. Stopping the human emission of carbon, that's the yellow-green bit. Develop human removal of carbon, the orange bit. And then restore the natural carbon sinks. That's the blue bit. So at Interface, that's 4 pillars. Live zero, love carbon, let nature cool, and lead the industrial re-revolution. So our framework goes something like that with those 4 pillars. So live zero, what do we mean by that? It means doing business in ways that give back whatever is taken from the earth. So I think our shared goal needs to be zero negative impact on the environment. And how do we do that? You know, some companies already aim to cut their carbon footprint, but I think we need to aim higher. We need zero pollutants, eliminating waste, closing every loop, switching to renewables, and drastically reducing carbon emissions. At Interface, that means, you know, maintaining our emissions zero and holding it there, not backing up from it. Love carbon, the second pillar. You know, we want to stop seeing carbon as the enemy and start using it as a resource. You know, carbon is a building block. And if we can capture carbon from the atmosphere and put it to work in our products, you know, we can move the excess carbon dioxide from up where it's harmful in the atmosphere down into durable products, things like plastics, concrete, even carpet tiles. There are some companies who are already trying to do this today. Some examples include Carbon 8, New Light, and New Sky, converting atmospheric CO2 into concrete, plastics, and carbonates. In May of last year, we presented a carbon negative, what we called a proof positive tile, at various shows and events around the world. We wanted to show that it's possible to create products that capture and store carbon and thereby shift the conversation around global warming and climate change. You know, in this narrative, carbon's not seen as a problem, but as a building block. The carbon footprint of the proof positive tile was estimated at -2 kilograms of CO2 per square meter. And that means that the amount of CO2 that was captured in the tile exceeds what we used to make it by 2 kilograms per square meter. This prototype, it's designed with materials that contain atmospheric carbon. And we took it and converted them into durable goods, durable materials that store carbon. So it's just a concept. It's kind of like a concept car. You couldn't really drive it off the showroom floor, but we were able to demonstrate to ourselves and hopefully to others that it is possible to find the materials and create products that can store carbon rather than result in carbon emissions. The third pillar, let nature cool. We mean support our biosphere's ability to regulate climate. Things like soil management, forestation, wetland restoration, and more. And for Interface, we're approaching it with our concept we call factories as a forest. We're working how to make our factories act like the local ecosystem. Basically, we want to run a factory like a high-performing ecosystem and do what nature does. And the steps we've taken is we've identified a local as in near our factory, a local high-performing ecosystem, and then we've measured the things that that ecosystem does, things like water filtration and carbon sequestration and others. And then once we have that, and we find out, well, how much, what is the metric that the ecosystem does, then we try to find ways at our factory to do the same thing. It's very challenging, but it's a really interesting project. At Sustainable Brands in Vancouver this year, we presented this work along with Janine Benyus's group, Biomimicry 3.8. And there's an article here at sustainablebrands.com if you want to learn more about this idea. And the fourth pillar, lead the industrial re-revolution. So the goal there is to transform industry into a force for the future that we want. Things like purposeful advocacy, radical collaboration, new business models, and so much more. And while obviously Interface can't reverse global warming on our own, I mean, we're a very small company in a very big world, but we think we can lead a movement and maybe show the way. If we can get enough people to join with us, maybe we can actually accomplish it. Oh, and this is, I want to show you just a quick positive video. It's 90 seconds long, and it's kind of loud and it's kind of quick. So if you're multitasking, you might better stop and pay attention. Anyway, here it goes. Wow, that was noisy, wasn't it? I really like to show that because so much of the discussion around climate change is really depressing and kind of gloomy. And so that was an effort to lighten it up a little bit. So I challenge everyone when I talk about this topic, I challenge you to join us on this mission. Like I said, we can have hardly any impact at all as Interface. So please join us on the mission. Take a look at Climate Take Back at interface.com. And I'll end with one more short video. And what this is a video that was created for Interface employees. So it's not really focused on an external audience, but it will give you some a look into the factories and into the people at Interface and give you some sense of what it's like there on this mission. Last video, I promise. This is my closing thing.
Right in the corner where you are, wherever you live in your daily life. And my God, what if everybody did it?
Tell you, just I can't help it. It always brings a tear to my eye when I watch that video. I've seen it a lot, and every time, I don't know, just because I think I know those people in those factories, and I know that myself and them really do believe that Interface's purpose is to really lead industry to love the world. So thanks for your time today.
What an impressive presentation, and so, like you say, so uplifting, so optimistic in all of this. Thank you. actually had someone ask me whether you'd be able to share the links to some of your videos. I don't know if that's something you want to send to me, and I can
Sure.
forward to those people that join the Brown Bag webinar today.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to send them to you, and you can. And I assume you've recorded the video. Have you recorded the presentation as well?
Yes,
Is
everything's
that
here now.
available? Yeah.
Yeah, and we will be posting this maybe in a week's time. I will move on with questions. And please, everybody, if you have questions for Connie, send them to me privately. And I will start with the first one, which is, how does Interface engage suppliers in its mission?
Well, it's complicated. That's my favorite answer to everything. It's complicated. But we have, with our Suppliers to Zero initiative, we actually go to, we identify the key suppliers that we want to work with each year, and then we go to their factories and do the usual procurement stuff with factory tours and meetings and all. But the sustainability people go, and when I go, what I do is I present to them our mission, communicate our mission to them, and then specifically, I show them where they affect our mission. For instance, in our carbon footprint, I show them the graph of our carbon footprint and all the different parts and where they are. So they see where their contribution is. And so they understand what we're asking from them is to reduce that. What can they do? We also show them where they are in our Mission Zero initiative to eliminate virgin raw materials. And we tell them, our plan is to get completely off virgin raw materials. And if that's all you've got to offer, then you're not in our future. So what do you got? And then we just share our stories to talk about how we've accomplished the things we've done and try to just inspire and encourage them to join us on our path.
Sounds good. And what metrics does Interface use in its new Climate Take Back mission?
We are still working on those. Obviously, carbon metrics, the carbon footprint of the product and the carbon footprint of the factory, all of those things are key. But because those other pillars we talked about are not product carbon footprint, we are still how we measure our progress in those. So yeah, it's a work in progress.
Okay. Someone says, I applaud your future-facing four-pillar efforts and your passion for sustainability. How do you engage your employees on the topic of sustainability? Is everyone at Interface able to suggest ways to make things better?
So we've been at it for an awfully long time, and that really helps. And we have a workforce that are, we have a lot of longevity in our workforce. So a lot of people here were here when Ray first had his epiphany, and it was like a wave that swept through the company, with an inspirational wave that swept through the company. But we did put in place systems to try to get everyone's engagement. We had what we called the QUEST program, and it was, I can't remember what it was an acronym. It stood for Employee Suggestions, but I can't quite put it all together. But yes, and we had individual Quest teams on the factory floor and in customer service and all the areas saying, how can we contribute to the mission? So everybody tried to find a place where they could touch our mission, because everybody does. You just have to stop and look for it. So yeah, we're lucky to have a very engaged workforce. But one, like I said, it was a benefit to start a long time ago. One of the downsides to that is that it can wax and wane, and you could get old sounding, not be fresh and new. So we do employee engagement constantly here, from workshops, events, and a lot of employee surveys to figure out where they are on our mission, on their understanding of our mission, especially with the new Climate Take Back mission. Everybody kind of had the gist of Mission Zero, and we still have a lot of educating to do on Climate Take Back.
And what is your biggest challenge in carpet recycling?
So many challenges with carpet recycling. Logistically, it's really difficult because when the carpet goes out, it goes to so many different places, small quantities of it in millions of locations, and trying to keep track of it and bring it back is really challenging because we don't own the carpet anymore once it's out there. And so we have to depend on the end user who might not have been the purchaser, you know, after the building changed hands or the lease ran out. Somebody else has that carpet when it's time to get rid of it. And they might not even know who Interface is. So really the biggest challenge is getting the carpet back, having enough stuff to feed our systems, because you put these systems in place, and if there's nothing in the pipe, you can't justify continuing to run the system. So yeah, getting stuff back is hard.
Well, this question kind of piggybacks that one, and my viewer here says, thank you so much for the inspiring presentation. The question is, from a sustainability perspective, did the lifetime use of the carpets be improved since 1994?
No, they haven't. The problem with carpet is we make the product with the intent for it to last between 15 and 20 years. And we have always made them that way, and we continue to make them that way to meet certain heavy use wear properties and the conditions seen in commercial flooring. So that stayed the same, but the problem is many of our customers do not use them for the full life cycle. People replace the carpet long before it's worn out. They replace it like it's like a fashion item. What's the new color for this season? What's the new pattern? And so that's our struggle, is people replace carpets more rapidly than the carpet wears out. And sometimes it's on a lease basis, so a lot of it's in commercial office space. And the general cycle is about 5 to 7 years. New tenant, new carpet. So that's that's our dilemma. We've actually thought about, well, what about making carpet that isn't designed to last 20 years? But that seems to be in the opposite direction of what, you know, the core of sustainability tells us to do. So we have not taken that step.
Sure, and as always, you see how important consumers are, how important we all are as consumers. Let me see, I have another question. And what suggestions do you have for a company looking to take a serious look at product stewardship within their organization?
Well, I think that, you know, the first step is always to understand the impact. And that always, for me, goes back to life cycle assessment, actually measuring the environmental impacts of your product. Once you understand those, then you see the importance of reducing them, and then you see what you can do to reduce them. So I think, understanding your impacts is key, and it leads to good practices like recycling, to product take back, things like that.
And I have one last question here, unless anyone else has more, please send me. Without Ray's leadership, how does Interface remain committed to his vision?
Well, when Ray passed away, a lot of us longtime Interface people were concerned. What's going to happen to the mission without Ray's leadership? We were anxious. We got new management in, and we were like, who are these people? Do they know anything about sustainability? And so there was a lot of anxiety for about 1.5 years. But I was so pleasantly surprised. Our new leader, Jay Gould, he's the new CEO of Interface for about 2 years now. He didn't know anything about it when he came on board, but he had his own epiphany, and we convinced him. I think once you hear the story and once you see the passion of the people at Interface, and he recognized the brand value that Interface has from its sustainability mission. And he's on board, and actually he led this adoption of the new climate take-back mission. So all our anxiety was for naught. Interface is, you know, sustainability is so baked in that leadership, lack of Ray's leadership didn't stop us. We remain, like I said, steadfast in our pursuit.
Well, again, how inspiring and how wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing. And I would, at this point, like to invite people to join us for next month's webinar, and that will be with TerraCycle's Alicia Ferrero, and she will show us how they eliminate the idea of waste. And so please go to our website if you'd like to register for that. And aside from that, I will say thank you again, Connie, and we will take any more questions and forward them to you if people didn't want to contact you directly. And as I said, this video will be posted in a week or so. So without further ado, I would like to end this meeting and thank you again.